If you clicked on this, you probably already know what Celeste is about. It's a 2D platformer where a girl goes to climb a mountain, and it's one of the best indie games out right now. Completing the first 7 chapters of the game is considered the most basic form of completion, with there still being Chapter 8, Chapter 9, and all the B and C sides. After just over 2,000 deaths and 9 hours of struggling through multiple sections of the game, I beat the first 7 chapters over about 2.5 months. Celeste has quickly become one of my favorite games to play. When I started, I severely underestimated the difficulty and challenge of this game. Each movement has to be insanely precise compared to pretty much every other game I've ever played. I also didn't expect a climbing game to have a full-blown story to it with multiple characters, a climax, a plot, and a resolution. I started playing Celeste just because of the soundtrack. After completing Hollow Knight, I was looking for something else to play. I had seen 1 or 2 videos on Celeste and they caught my eye, but I never watched them. I added Resurrections, the song from the 2nd chapter of Celeste, to my soundtrack playlist because I recognized the game. So, when I saw that the game had gone on sale in Steam, I bought it immediately because I'd really enjoyed what I heard of the soundtrack. I think most people underestimate the impact a good soundtrack has on a game. I believe the correlation between the soundtrack and the experience of games like Minecraft, Subnautica, the Portal series, Celeste, and Hollow Knight all prove this theory. And having completed the first 8 chapters, some of the B-sides, and having over 5,000 deaths throughout my playthrough, I think I'm qualified to say that this is a game everyone should play. One of the best things about Celeste is that it makes you feel proud of the amount of deaths you have. The game starts with a prologue that begins with some introductory text and background noise that helps explain the story. You then get introduced to the protagonist, Madeline. The prologue exists as a tutorial area. You learn the basics of how to move as well as how to climb, and then you meet your first character, Granny. Granny keeps the game lighthearted by laughing a lot and making jokes. She appears throughout several different chapters of the game, and it's always fun to look forward to greeting her again. After talking to Granny, you get to the first exciting part of the game, the falling bridge, and you learn how to dash. After narrowly escaping doom by falling off the bridge, you get thrown into Chapter 1, where you take all the mechanics you learned and put them together. You get introduced to new obstacles like these gear blocks. You also see these platforms that disappear when you stand on them. You learn that these spring pads bounce you up and refresh your dash. And you might die a few times trying to figure out these falling ice blocks. However, Chapter 1 is pretty easy, and most people won't struggle on it for more than a few minutes. You also start to figure out the momentum mechanic that boosts you off of blocks and after you dash. Later in the game, and speedrunners use this to go a little bit faster on certain things and do certain tricks that are otherwise impossible. You really only need this for a few large gaps in Chapter 1, and after this final room, you reach the top of the abandoned city. This is where Chapter 1 ends with you sleeping by a campfire, and you get rewarded with some cool art, which was a huge motivator for me completing each chapter. Granny's bird comes down and sits on your head, and you might not realize it yet, but this is a huge part of the story in this game, especially towards the end. Also, for those of you that have played this game and didn't know this, you can actually look around at the art with using your movement keys, and you can get a little bit more perspective on it. Some of the art is more 3D. Anyway, we move into Chapter 2, which is where I personally fell in love with the game, and this soundtrack that I've been playing for the first chapter is really the second chapter's soundtrack. After finding your way to a breakable door, you go through a series of rooms that look kind of like a challenge, but they're really not. You might die a few times like I did, but learn these dash refreshes, dash crystals, whatever you want to call them, and you eventually end up in this mirror room. Some reflection of you looks like it escapes, and this mirror will be seen in Chapter 3 and Chapter 5. In different ways, but mostly the same idea. This is usually where the track really picks up, and you learn these bubble blocks, or whatever you really call them, and you figure out how to use them. And after a while, you get to this room, which is where the story picks up. The thing, or party, that escaped from the mirror starts talking to you. She's been named Madeline by the community as a play on the main character, Madeline. She starts telling you about how unreasonable your journey to the top of this mountain really is, and she tries to convince you to not go up. You and Madeline bicker for a while in this sort of creepy looking room with a skeleton and a table, I think. In the beginning, when talking with Granny, she briefly mentions how the mountain is sort of magical, and in some way I guess this brought Madeline out. Madeline makes it clear that she needs to climb this mountain to give herself a challenge and clear her mind. After Madeline realizes that Madeline is being stubborn and won't take her advice to stop climbing the mountain, she decides to chase her. When I was first playing this part of the game, it was genuinely terrifying having something that escaped from a mirror chase me. Not that the fact that it was a part of me, but the fact that I was playing a platformer and being chased by something. This is where you learn the first version of the door and lock combo system, where these little round key things move a block that prevents you from progressing. Doing this while being chased by multiple evil, speedy women is pretty hard, and they grow in numbers too. You see some of the parts from the first chapter get carried over here, and you have to adapt to them being shoved in your face while you're getting hunted down. After escaping them, you get to this cutscene where Madeline's ex-boyfriend or something calls her on a telephone, and she realizes that she's actually in a dream. This is a genuine jump scare, at least it was for me, because Madeline just pops up out of nowhere. She makes her usually insulting remarks and leaves Madeline to get eaten by some weird dream monster. Like I said, it's funny now, but I genuinely thought this was terrifying when I first played. You then wake up and come back to the same cell phone where Madeline calls her mom instead. Madeline's mom gives her some reassuring words, and we find out that Madeline gets panic attacks, which sort of explains the whole reason she's climbing this mountain. You can see that this is the beginning of Madeline starting to doubt her ability to climb the mountain. And with that, Chapter 2 ends, and we get, yet again, some more fantastic art. After this, we head into Chapter 3, which I didn't like at first, but it has grown on me quite a lot. Just the whole theme, the soundtrack, I think it's actually pretty cool. This was the first part in the game where I actually got stuck on something for more than just a little bit. This is where Celeste starts to really pick up on its difficulty. Chapter 1 is pretty easy. Chapter 2 is really only hard because of the pressure you're put under. Chapter 3 forces you to be much more precise with your movements, or you die, and there's a lot of places to die in this chapter. When you first enter the hotel, you meet Mr. Oshiro, and right off the bat, you might notice he's a little bit crazy. He talks to himself, and he's a little bit weird about what he says. He appears to be very obsessive over his hotel and wants a lot of guests to stay there. He tries to convince Madeline to stay in the presidential suite, which is supposedly their finest room, but she really just wants to go on her way and climb the mountain. Mr. Oshiro then tells Madeline to follow him throughout the hotel, and once she does, she can see it's clearly broken down. There's cobwebs, broken glass, there's this red fluid goop stuff, I think it looks like, and then there's these hairs that also look pretty dangerous, and they make red goop after you step on them. Then she finds Mr. Oshiro having a breakdown in the middle of his library that's pretty torn and tattered, and she decides to help him clean it up because he seems pretty down and doesn't want to do anything. Mr. Oshiro tries to be the best host in the world and says he's going to stop her, or doesn't really want her to clean up the hotel, but, you know, Madeline's stubborn and she does it anyway. One of the best sounds on the song track is the one that starts playing right now. At first I really didn't like this chapter, but I think it's alright. I think I really just hated it because it was hard. But yeah, this song makes up for a lot of it. I don't know. It's so good. At least it gets a lot better. Trust me. But anyway, Madeline kind of just finds her way through the library and steps on these little book buttons. And then she meets Theo, one of the characters that if you haven't met him already, he is forced to meet you right now, because you have to go through here to sort all the books out. But yeah, he's trying to get out of here, and if you haven't met him before, he has some special dialogue. This is a save where I have met him, so he has just normal dialogue, so ignore that. So Theo's trying to tell her, like, Madeline, get the hell out of here, you know, this guy's creepy. But she's stubborn, like I said, so she doesn't listen at all. Theo accepts that Madeline isn't going to listen to him, and he just tells her to be safe. After this, we kind of follow Theo through the vents. You can see him on the bottom climbing his way through. Yeah, I died here, but, you know. He gets all the way to the end, and then, you know, Madeline's left alone, trying to escape here after helping some dude with his library. But we see Theo pop up again, and he's like, he's still got the same message for Madeline, just telling her to get out of here. But this guy's a pretty creepy dude, you know. And there's nothing inherently creepy about Mr. Oshiro except the way that he talks, and that he's a ghost, and that he's a very bit obsessive over his hotel. But I mean, honestly, he ain't a bad dude. I think he's just a little bit lost, you know, scattered and lost. Madeline goes on her grand old way, and she meets up with Mr. Oshiro again. And she finally finds out what all the red and orangey gunk is all over the place. Apparently it's Mr. Oshiro's throw up, bro. He is just puking all over the place, sick to the stomach or something. And apparently it's deadly because it kills Madeline. After 18 shots, Mr. Oshiro finally lets it all out. And technically you can get through this. There's some speedrunner strat called demo dashing, but you know, I'm a casual player. And it's hard for me to consider myself a casual player in Celeste, because it's a hard game, and I feel like I've done a lot, but there are way better players than me. Speedrunners, and just, you know, people that do crazy modded challenges and stuff. But anyway, you know, Madeline finally gets her way shown to the almighty prestigious presidential suite. And she's like, yeah, it looks nice, you know. And then you see a mirror, and those mirrors mean something. And we got Madeline breaking out and just starting the fight. Calls him a loser, you know. Pretty much just insults Mr. Oshiro and makes him feel more down than he was before. And he's getting kind of sad, you know. Madeline's thinking to herself, like, ah, fuck you. You just screwed up my one chance of getting out of here, you know. Like, I was just helping this dude. You screwed it all up. But then Madeline, you know, breaks a hole through the ceiling with magic mountain powers. And yeah, Madeline's still pretty pissed at her, you know. She's like, come on, like, you didn't have to do this. Like, just leave me alone, bro. But Madeline doesn't do that. And then Mr. Oshiro comes up. He's like, you know, why would you help me just to run away? And then Madeline drops a bomb. And then, you know, Madeline just pisses Oshiro the fuck off. And she calls them both pathetic. And then Mr. Oshiro starts transforming into some anime dude. Nah, I'm kidding. He gets pretty angry, and I don't think he can tell the difference between Madeline and Madeline. So he kind of just goes at Madeline, and Madeline gets off, like, free, you know? But then you get this epic part of the song. You get this epic, like, kind of chase. Yeah, it's pretty similar to Chapter 2's chase, except, I don't know, a little less intense, because you don't have people, or at least angry women, copying your every move, like you did earlier. But yeah, you kind of combine all the things you learned from the previous chapters. Like, that's kind of what the boss fights are for, you know? It's an accumulation of all your knowledge, all your skill, and then you use it to outrun or outfight. Yeah. There's one more that's pretty significant, but it doesn't come until a lot later. So this is the most significant a boss fight will be for the next couple chapters. But, you know, then Mr. Oshiro just kind of becomes normal again and apologizes. Actually, he doesn't really apologize. He's just like, leave me alone, I'm gonna fix my hotel. And then he just disappears. And if you haven't noticed by now, the sky is like a really pretty sunset color. And throughout the fight, it kind of changes. It kind of like goes from dark and starry to like a nice sunrise. I think it's a sunrise or sunset. Doesn't really matter. But we get more art, and then we move on to Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is pretty fun. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. It was when I first played it. Like, I didn't like Chapter 3, but I thought Chapter 4 was pretty dang good. And it is. It's a pretty good chapter. But yeah, Madeline meets Granny again. Apparently she got a few houses on the mountain. She got one down at the bottom. You know, one up here again. And, you know, she just started laughing. She's my favorite character, probably, because just keeps it so lighthearted. That makes you not take the game very seriously, you know. That's a good thing, because this game, it can get you mad, you know, after failing parkour for, I don't know, several hours. You get kind of mad. And I got mad back in Chapter 3 when I was struggling on a few rooms, but then I kind of just got good or something. Chapter 4 was pretty fun. I mean, it's still hard, but still fun. But yeah, she just kind of motivates Madeline to climb the mountain because she's talking mad shit. No, she isn't, but yeah. And then you get into Chapter 4, get into the wind mechanic, which is honestly really cool at first, but after playing it just kind of sucks. Like, you just want normal movement, you know? You don't want modified, what is it, X coordinate movement, I guess Y too. It kind of goes in all directions, the wind. And then you get these clouds and these pink disappearing clouds and these moving blocks. All pretty dang new, and you kind of just find your way through it here. Looks like, I don't know, some sort of mountain hobo town. My bad, you know. But anyway, you can see the wind can be like pretty dang strong, and it can also be nothing. and it can be in both directions. Then you get to, I don't know if this is the final part or not, it's been a while since I played 4A, but you get to the snowballs, and snowballs are pretty cool. This part kind of sucks, I'm not gonna lie. I just don't like, I think the wind, when it's blowing in your face and you can't move very fast, it's kind of annoying. And I know some people really love the wind. I think it's alright. This is the end here. So it wasn't the snowballs, but after this you get a pretty cool cutscene, you know. You meet up with Theo again, and you see this cool ass gondola. And he's pretty funny too, actually. But yeah, he comes and joins you on the gondola, and you start your way into chapter 5. But not quite yet. This is a long cutscene, and I think this is why I actually loved chapter 4 when I first played it, because I don't know, I just really enjoyed. This is where the story actually like starts storying. Like, I mean, there's parts of the story, you get the background and the prologue in chapter 1, and chapter 2, you start seeing it come out. This is where you get, like, a full-on, like, few-minute cutscene of just, I don't know, I call these cutscenes, they're kind of cutscenes. There's not really much gameplay, so I guess I call it a cutscene. But yeah, it's really cool to see this. I'm glad they put it in there. I never thought a climbing game would have such a story-focused part of it, but it does, and I love that about this game. You start to see that Theo's just going along for the ride, trying to take a picture, but Madeline's starting to worry, and then, you know, the worst happens, and Madeline just comes out and stops the gondola. I don't know, it doesn't look like it stopped, but it is. You can hear it. And she starts to panic, you know. She had a panic attack. Actually, I don't know if she had a panic attack, but, you know, back in chapter 2, her mom was going over that, and then I think that starts to set in here, because you can see, like, these vines, they look like, I don't even know what they look like. They look like vines, but, you know, Theo's like trying to calm her down, trying to get her to be still, you know, get out of her panicky state. And so he teaches her this trick, this breathing trick. Like her mom said, you know, focus on your breathing, you know. And so she tries it, or at least this is a thing you can do in the game. Like, I was controlling this box over the feather, you know, with the space bar to, like, I don't know what that does, but it's supposed to, like, simulate breathing or something. And then the feather just kind of floats off. I don't know, I'm not great at this. The first time this happened, it took me a second, an embarrassing second to nail the feather. But for some reason, that calms her down, and they start moving again, and Theo's like, yeah, it's chill. She's like, how the hell did that happen? She's like, how'd you know we were gonna get to the top? I don't know, she says it. Yeah, how'd you know we start moving again? And Theo's like, you know, I didn't really, but I think that's the funny part. And then you get to see the picture of them on the gondola, freaking out, you know. You can see Theo's thumb in the top right. I don't know if you saw that or not, but cool little thing they added. But anyway, gets war art, typical chapter ending. And then you go into the mirror temple, and again, Madeline's pretty skeptical. She's like, I don't know, looks kind of sketchy in here. She kind of seems skeptical throughout a lot of the game, which I guess is just personality. But Theo's trying to be, you know, average social media influencer, bro, trying to take his crazy pictures in this creepy old temple. She's like, this ain't good. But anyway, goes in after him. I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, you can see that there's like reflections. Like there's mirrors in the wall. And if you know anything about Madeline and mirrors, they don't mix. So you can imagine what this chapter is going to be. Madeline finds Thea's phone, and guess what? It's right next to a mirror. Just like everything bad, you know, mirrors are the bane of my existence, bane of Madeline's existence. Nah, I'm kidding, I don't care. Mirrors are chill. But for some reason, to Madeline, they're not chill, and she starts getting kind of worried. Anyway, you get introduced to a lot of new stuff in this chapter. Goofy, like, bubbles. Weird bubbles. You also get these buttons, similar to the book buttons in chapter 3. And, yeah, you get these doors and stuff. But anyway, Madeline finds Theo in a mirror. Ironic. And he's like trapped in there. I don't know how this works. I don't know what the magic or science is behind this, but it's kind of cool, I guess. But anyway, he was trying to take a picture. We find out he's trying to take a picture of himself in the mirror in the temple. And then the mirror monsters got him, you know. And the mirror monsters are still torturing him, and he has to run away. And Madeline now has to find him. Anyway, she goes throughout and then finds this weird portal thing. Anyway, it starts to activate. She can't escape it, and she gets sucked into like some alternate reality or something. Actually, it's not an alternate reality. It's supposedly just her mind. Anyway, you kind of get introduced as one of these eyeball squids. I don't know what else to call them. But you can see how crazy fast they move. And this is a lot faster than they move in-game. These are like the only enemies in the game. But you find out that they are coming for Madeline. And then you get this really cool jump down. I don't know, I think as far as the art in this part of the game, it's fantastic. I didn't really like the gameplay or the story. I mean, I love the story overall. I thought it was kind of weak here. I felt like it was an attempt at Chapter 2. A Chapter 2 remake. I mean, I know it isn't, and it fits very well into it. But as far as, like, trying to be scary, I think, or trying to get the same feeling that Chapter 1 provoked, I think it's pretty weak yet. And that might not have been the intention behind this chapter. They might have just had it to elaborate more on, like, the messed up mind of Madeline, or at least I think that's what she calls it. But the whole story behind it is that she's got, like, mental health issues, and that she's, like, struggling, and she gotta climb the mountain to combat that. But anyway, you keep going, following Madeline, and she just blames everything on you, which doesn't really help. And then you gotta climb through, and you start to get introduced to the monsters, mirror monsters, eyeball squids. And they kind of scare you, but you find out of their mirror. Maybe these are good mirrors or something, because, I don't know, nothing's bad has popped out of them yet. And a mirror Madeline gives not mirror Madeline some magical mountain words, and she goes on to save Theo, because Theo's somewhere in here. Then she finds Theo trapped in this crystal statue-y thing, and she's like, damn, this is embarrassing, you know, like, you gotta see all this side of me. And, you know, she's kind of mad at him because he kind of got himself in this situation. Well, he's just happy he got a selfie. He's just chilling. But anyway, they talk for a little while more, and she has to save him, and he's like, yeah, let's chill. And then Theo's like, he's like, you're my only hope, Obi-Wan. You know, the one Star Wars reference. But anyway, he's like, I gotta trust in you to get out of here. And he's like, I believe in you. You got this. You gotta get me out of here. And so Madeline's like, okay, I'll get you out of there. You know, she's excited. A challenge is a challenge for her. Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. Anyway, she goes on to save him, find him in a different part of the temple, and after clearing several rooms of the stupid eyeball squids, she gets back to him, and she breaks him out. Then you get introduced to whatever the newest mechanic is, which is carrying Theo, which is weird. I don't know. You get him out of the statue, but he's still stuck in a crystal ball, and she has to carry him because there's no other way. He can't walk, you know. She thinks that he wants her to leave him behind, but he actually just wants to be carried, you know, by a woman for once. Damn, I don't know if that landed or not, but yeah, he's like, yeah, just carry me, it's chill. I don't know why I'm paused on this shit for so long, but anyway. She carries him eventually. She gets him out of there. And this is where it actually starts to get really hard, because you got shit chasing you. It's not really a chase like it was in Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. It's just like individual enemies, which really sucks. But anyway, you can't dash while you're holding him, because I think it's the same button. I don't think you can change that either. But anyway, she's going throughout the temple, carrying Theo all the way. Good thing about Theo, he can push buttons. She can throw him onto buttons. So that helps her get through a few doors. But anyway, he's telling her, like, you got it, we can get through this thing. And then eventually they get to this weird spot. This spot right here. And I don't know, there's some weird energy coming from it. Some creepy shit. But she gets closer and closer while carrying Theo, because you can't leave him behind. And this is honestly a really long chapter. I cut a lot of it out. Speedrunners actually skip this chapter. They go to the B-side, which is harder and shorter. Almost all B-sides are harder and shorter. But this one especially, like, it's worth it to save time to go find the cassette, go to the B-side, and complete that instead. But anyway, they complete it, or I guess Madeline completes the chapter and hauls Theo out of there. The eyeball breaks his crystal and whatnot. But yeah, I sped through this because this is like at least 10 minutes of just dialogue, and it gets kind of boring. It's fun to go through the first time, and if you play the game, I would recommend just going through it all, because it's pretty good. But for a video, it's not really optimal, so yeah, skip. And this is like 8 times sped up or something. I don't know, I did it a while ago. But they just talk for a while about life, I don't know, kind of cute or whatever. I don't know. I never experienced love. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, and they just talk for a while, and eventually they go to sleep. You can skip through it. You can skip the cutscene with a button, or you can just hit the last dialogue of every part of it, which is a little bit slower. But they go to sleep, take a picture, take a selfie before they sleep, and Theo just falls asleep, like he's dead out. And then this is where chapter 6 like really gets good. This is only the beginning, and I love chapter 6. It's by far my favorite. But anyway, you get these golden feather things, and some of them, the ones with bubbles around them, you have to dash into to activate them, like you see here. And then it's like Geometry Dash. I don't know, I've never played Geometry Dash. But anyway, you get forced into these things. Wow, I'm really struggling here. I don't remember playing this. I recorded this so long ago. But anyway, you finally get to the end of it, and you hit more and more golden feathers until you're just straight up in the sky. And this is by far my favorite cutscene. It's pretty much a cutscene. Well, the first part's a little bit of gameplay, but it's nothing crazy. You can't die. It's not even hard. I was just being autistic there. Sorry if that offended anyone, but you know, I was struggling for no reason. And then Madeline's like, I gotta tell this lady, I gotta put this lady in her place, you know. So she's telling her like, you kind of suck. And I really thought this was like the best point in the game. The soundtrack here is the same one I used in the beginning of the video, because it's so cool, honestly. Until, you know, Madeline's like, nah, fuck that, you know. she's not giving up on the control over the two of them, and she just drags Madeline down, Madeline drags Madeline down, and you can see one of the coolest parts. Madeline literally climbs out of her text box here. You can see that, and it's really cool. Anyway, Madeline's like, I got this, you know, I got a feather. That's what Theo taught me. Like, last time this happened, I did the same thing, and it all worked out, so it only makes sense again, right? A sense to do it again. And so she does it again, and it fails, and I don't know why it failed. Madeline cuts that in half, and then, yeah, this literally gave me chills the first time I was going through this. Crazy. She gets dragged back down to where Theo is, and Theo's like, what the hell, I just woke up. Anyway, she goes out, and this is what the mountain looks like from the outside, like when you load into the game. I cut all that out, but in case you were wondering. Then you get dragged down to, I don't know, the center of the earth or whatever. You just get dragged down so far, breaking through these crystals that would otherwise kill you, and you fall into the water. And apart from that first, like, cutscene song, the rest of the songs in this chapter are great. There's a few more, not very many, because you can't do very many songs for each chapter. It would be a lot of time making songs. But anyway, the one that plays throughout most of the chapter, Reflection, I believe. I'm 90% sure I got that right. It's a pretty good song. It's a pretty groovy song. It's pretty calm, you know, very mellow. But you get these unique moving blocks and the golden feathers, and then these like bouncy pad balls that launch you in different ways. They kind of suck sometimes, but you combine all of that into this chapter. And you know, Granny's everywhere. She has a bird, her bird and her house here for some reason. But they talk for a while, and Madeline's like, yeah, I'm done. Like, this is it. You can see her morale's at an all-time low. But this is where Granny comes in clutch. Granny starts talking some sense into her, and she's like, you know, I don't know. She's just giving her so much motivation, whether that's out of spite or not, doesn't really matter. But she's like, you aren't over this. Like, she's like, you still want to climb the mountain, don't you? And she's just a big motivator. She's very lighthearted. She laughs every time she sees you, whether that's insulting or not. Again, doesn't really matter. But Madeline's like, you know, I gotta prove her wrong now. Oh, and then Granny pulls the most clutch move, and she's like, she's saying that Madeline sounds scared. Because, dang, dude, she's just acting like a bitch, you know? Anyway, you get these breakable walls again, and you start chasing Madeline. This is after finding her, because this chapter is honestly kind of confusing on where to go. But I think there's a lot of different options. There are in every chapter, but I think here it's the most obvious. And you keep chasing the tentacles or the vines or is it the hair? I think it's the hair. I never was able to tell. I think a lot of people called it vines. But you chase it until you get to, well, the root. And then, this is my favorite part of the game. I haven't played Farewell yet, so if that's good. I've purposely stayed away from looking into it. Actually, I have played it, but I got stuck on like the second room, wherever there's a wall jump. So yeah, I've purposely left myself out of that. And if that's any good or any better than this, you know, I'd change my mind. But up until now, this has to be the best part of the story. And so she uses Granny's advice, and then they start, you know, fighting. And it's really funny. But you get another banger soundtrack. It's not, honestly, it's not the best soundtrack on its own, but paired with the fight, there's some soundtracks that are like that, where if they weren't there during a boss fight or just an intense part of a game, I don't know what I'd do. But anyway, Madeline's pulling out all her moves. She got the balls that come towards Madeline. She got Transformers, laser beam. I'm kidding, I don't even watch Transformers. And then she's got the double kill balls. I don't even know what to call them. They kind of suck sometimes, especially when you're about to beat Madeline. And one really cool fact I found online about this fight is in the files. The action of, I don't know, getting close to Madeline, and when you basically kill her, you're not really killing her, but that action is in the files is like Madeline.hug or something like that. I don't know, but I found that out. So she's not trying to hurt Madeline, she's just trying to give her a hug, you know, trying to resolve stuff. But anyway, the fight, you know, keeps escalating. Yeah, you get a lot of components brought into this fight. You get the bouncy balls, the golden feathers, spikes, the springs. You get everything here. Until you beat, well, I guess you don't consider this beating, but yeah. She says that Madeline wins, and they start talking again. And Madeline's like, you know, like, she's like, I'm not gonna hold shit against you. Like, we gotta pull it together. And yeah, she gives her a final hug. How wholesome. Very, very nice. And then you start getting into the good stuff. Well, I mean, this is the best, but then Battlein transform into a white hole and surrounds Madeline and levels her up. Anyway, they like fuse together or something, and at this point you get 2 dashes. I mean, like, I know you had infinite dashes before, but this helps you clear like bigger gaps and stuff, so it's very useful. You know, you complete the rest of the chapter this way. And then, yeah, there's not much else in this chapter besides Madeline and Battling, you know, flying. I don't know how this works. But anyway, they meet up with the rest of the game, pretty much. Anyway, you know, Battlein's still a little bit negative. She's like, I don't know if we can do this. Then Granny comes out, you know. You get the story coming together, you know. The story's all coming together. That was the climax. If there's anything, like, if there's a climax in the entire game, that fight was the climax. And now this is the resolution. Close enough. But, anyway, Theo comes into the picture, and he's like, I don't know, he was funny, a little adorable goth Madeline. I guess it's a pretty good description, but, yeah, they talk it out, or at least that's what Battlein says, and then they are still determined on climbing the mountain, you know. Yep, Theo adding positive energy into there, but yeah, they're still determined to climb the mountain, still determined to go up, or at least Madeline is, and Madeline's not sure, but Madeline's like, we can put this all behind us, and we can move on. Anyway, pretty damn wholesome ending to a weird chapter. I mean, it's definitely weird for sure. The arts, I love the art in this chapter. I love this soundtrack for this chapter. Love the fight, love the story. I mean, I don't think there's a single thing I can complain about in this chapter. It wasn't exactly a hard chapter. Like, I don't think I struggled on it. I did on the Battlein fight, because I didn't know how long it was. It's like, it took me like 15 minutes. Anyway, you get some art, typical art, and then you head for the summer. Chapter 7, the final chapter of just whatever the basic completion is. But you start off with this interesting, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, interesting part. It's not exact. It's like the prologue, but it's like the prologue and chapter 6 got mashed together. But anyway, this is the B-side song for chapter 7. I think it's quite a bit better than the chapter 7 song. No offense, chapter 7 song is great. It's just a long song though. But then, you know, Madeline and Battlein keep going throughout the different chapters. They start with I think that was the prologue. I'm just going to call it the prologue. And then they go to chapter 1, and they do their flying thing all throughout the rest of the chapter. You know, you get nice chapter 2 section, and they do this jump thing. I don't even know what it's called, but, you know, this part of the game is very incorporated for the 2 dashes you get when you level up. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, chapter 7's also pretty dang long, so again, I cut a lot of this out. But you get like a double dash version of chapter 3, and honestly, it was a pretty good remake of the chapter. I thought it was quite nice. Anyway, they keep talking, keep flying, but I think the only chapter they skip out on for the double dash type chapter, like a remake, is chapter 6, because it was the one you just did. That's really what most of Chapter 7 is. It's just remakes, and it took me a long time to complete this. Yeah, you get to, what is it, Chapter 4, Winds. Oh, I don't know. This is where I realized the wind honestly was not the best. Like, it's kind of fun at first, but then it kind of sucks. When I first did the Chapter 4 part of Chapter 7, it was not my favorite. Like, I really did not enjoy the wind. And I mean, nothing against Chapter 4. I think it's a fantastic chapter, but it's just, after a while, the wind becomes kind of overrated, pretty boring. But anyway, you get another one for Chapter 5, and I think that's the last of it. This one actually was hard. The Double Dash version of Chapter 5. I remember struggling on this a little bit. But yeah, it's a cool remake though. You get past all that, keep flying, and then you get to the final part of Chapter 7. And then while they're flying, these two kind of apologize and make up and tell each other that they're gonna climb the mountain together and that it's gonna be great, because it is. Both Badeline and Madeline acknowledge that they want to climb the mountain together and that they need to rely on each other to be able to get to the top. And then we get to the last part of Chapter 7, where there's 30 checkpoint things, and you have to get to number 1, so they count down. You can see here the bouncy spring things, refresh or dash, and I don't know what checkpoint I'm at here. Looks like I'm at number 20, so yeah, this is a struggle, especially for the first time, but honestly it's super fun, this section of Chapter 1, the last section. I cut a lot of this out because there was just deaths upon deaths of me attempting this, and this by far right here is the hardest checkpoint, I think. The first time I did this climb, that was by far the hardest part, that little U-dip with the spiky crystals that you can't touch. But anyway, you get past that and you finally start reaching the top. Yeah, I'm on like the last checkpoints here. It starts getting easier and easier past that one point until you're right here and you've actually got to the top. And this is where you've completed the game. After Madeline and Badeline talk to each other, you get probably the coolest piece of art in the game. At least, I think my favorite. It's animated and it's pretty. No doubt about that. But it doesn't end there. You get to experience the epilogue. But yeah, Madeline goes back to the bottom with Badeline, and that's the credit scene that I played at the start. But they walk into Granny's house and Madeline bakes them a pie. Oshiro decides he wants to join them, even though he wasn't invited. But, you know, it's fine. I think they let him in because he was there. I don't know, he's a relevant character or something. But, yeah, I think Madeline's against him being there, but Madeline doesn't mind him. They had a little bit of beef, but I think they got over it. Yeah, after that, all the strawberries you collect throughout the game, which are really just bragging points, you get to put into a strawberry. And there's quite a few different endings based on how many strawberries you get. Certain pies are more complete than others. Mine is, I don't know, I don't think it's super complete, but it's not lacking. It's not bad. Oshiro seems to certainly have some opinions on it, but the rest of them give me compliments, I think, or Madeline. But yeah, this is a super fun game to play, super fun to beat. Quite challenging, honestly, for such a what should be short game. It was pretty hard. But there's a lot more to it. There's B-sides and Chapter 8 that I'm sure I'll play in the future. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys later. Bye.